My dear friends in Christ, the first words of the Bible are, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." The first line of the first book, that's the line that we hear. And what did he create? He created the light, the sky, the dry land and waters, vegetation, the sun, the moon, living creatures, sea creatures, birds, everything that moves. And finally, he creates man. And he looks over all these things and he saw that it was good. And I think that's such a great line, that God takes pleasure in his creation, right? And what he has made. That he looks upon everything and he finds it to be very good. That God is never disappointed after he creates something, right? And I think that's really important to remember. God isn't like disappointed that he created you. God looks at you, he looks at all of creation, and he finds it good. But then we hear that first reading today from the book of Genesis. And while everything is good, there is something that is lacking. Something that's lacking. And he looks at Adam, and he says, "It is not good for the man to be alone." And what does this mean? What does it mean to say it's not good for him to be alone? Because if you look at Adam, he's literally living in paradise. He's living in the Garden of Eden. He's been given dominion over animals, over the plants. It's he and God alone. Like, he's sitting pretty well. What a beautiful gift. And at first glance, this looks amazing. And so what is lacking? What could possibly, not be good about him being alone in that situation? Why does God say that? And so here's the meaning of Genesis, right? God created Adam as incomplete on his own because man does not contain all his meaning and purpose in himself alone. That we are made for more as human beings, human persons. We are created for more. We're created for love. It's not good for the man to be alone, right? It's not enough for him to be just the master of the animals. Because the human person is made for communion with another like himself, that's why it's not good for him to be alone. He's created for others, right? Not just over animals and plants. And so as Adam slept, Eve was drawn from his side and she became this suitable partner. And you could just feel that excitement in the voice of Adam, right? Bone of my bones, flesh of my flesh. Like, here's one who is co-equal with me, one I can give myself to entirely. Like, you can't give yourself to animals, you can't give yourself to plants. It's hard to love like that. But here's finally someone who he can give himself to completely. And when God gives Adam Eve, he gives Adam a deeper meaning and purpose to his life. My dear friends in Christ, you and I are made for communion. We have been created to give ourselves to one another out of love. It's like in our very bones, from this book of Genesis, this beautiful example that we are not made for ourselves. Like, when you look out into the world, it's just like a world full of individuality. Like this whole all about me thing, Like when I was in college, our big expression, or I don't know what you call it, expression or line or thing or whatever, our motto was, "It's your time." And it was kind of like, okay, cool. Like, it's just my time. Like, it's just like always this focus on me. But like, there's got to be something more to life than just like me all the time, I think Toby Keith, he had a song too, like back in early 2000s, like, "I Want to Talk About Me." And it's just like the entire song is just him talking about himself. And you're like, okay, it's a country song. But it gets old after about a minute because you're like, okay, there's got to be more, right? There's got to be more. Because I don't know, what the Bible is speaking to us, like saying to us, is like, if you want to live your life miserably, right? The recipe for living a miserable life is to live life selfishly. To live life as if you are literally the center of the universe. What the Bible speaks about, like on the other end, like if you want to live a life of joy, then give it away and don't count the cost. Like, give it away. Give yourself to your spouse. Give yourself to your vocation. Go all in and give, right? We were made for more. We were made for communion. And like, is life going to be without struggles? Like, no. But still, like, if we want to live this life of joy, the key is to give. Because it's not good for man to be alone. It's not good for man to be in himself. Like, we are called to give. And that's literally what vocation is. When we talk about praying for vocations, when you look at the vocation of marriage, where Jesus just beautifully declares, right, that what God has joined together, no human being must separate. This vocation of marriage, if you look at priesthood, every vocation has an aspect of the giving of yourself away. And so in marriage, right, the husband, the wife, they give themselves to one another freely, totally, faithfully, and fruitfully. The fruit of the love between a man and a woman is their children. Right? It's this beautiful, beautiful vocation of love. And then as a priest too, right? As a man called to a life of celibacy, it's a similar thing, right? Like, I've made a promise to give myself to God completely. And in return, he's entrusted to me like a whole parish, or maybe more accurately, 4 parishes, you know? And it's just the craziest thing. Like, I've only been a priest for a year and 3 months or whatever. But it took me at least 6 months to get used to people calling me father, you know, because it's just like, I feel like a kid in everything I do. But it's so cool to be called father, because it's that reminder that, like, the priest is not his own, like, that I can't absolve myself, anoint myself, that, like, I'm made for others. That's the case for every single one of us. We were created for communion. I think that's so beautiful, right? We're not created to be just like individualistic, just on our own little island. We're created for communion. And I think that's absolutely beautiful. That's exactly what love is. To give yourself without counting the cost in whatever vocation the Lord is calling you to. And so, what do all the readings point to this weekend? Is that this thing that we call love is not some sort of stagnant force that just, like, this fluffy butterfly thing or whatever, but that love is deep, that love calls us out of ourselves, and that's where we can find joy, when we give ourselves away. That love is not creative, but, I mean, it's not stagnant, but in the words of St. Maximilian Kolbe, only love creates. Love is created. It's amazing, and that's what you and I are called to. So today, this weekend, maybe just to ask the Lord, right, in whatever vocation the Lord has called you to or will call you to ask him to make you generous, right? To say, Lord, help me to be generous right here and right now. Because it's not good for man to be alone. It's not good for man to be isolated on an island. You and I are made for love. We're created for love. And in the words of St. Francis of Assisi, it is in giving that we receive. The Christian life is one of love. So let's just go all in and ask the Lord to fill our hearts with that same love.